Hey guys, Chicken and Maine, aka Deboo, with a YouTube video forecast update. This forecast update effective around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. Okay guys, lots to talk about in today's update. We're glad you're tuning in. Always like to start off by thanking longtime followers and welcoming new ones by letting you know that we are primarily a surf and marine forecaster covering the North Atlantic waters, looking for weather systems and or patterns that produce high seas and or high surf. You can't have high surf without high seas. So during winter, we're tracking winter storms, and during summer, we're tracking our tropical cyclone season. We're tracking and watching for developing tropical cyclones and or hurricanes. Start you off with some real-time satellite imagery and what we're going to be watching for over the next several days. And that is, to start off, over in the left, we're going to be watching for a couple of areas of spin to work their way into the northwest U.S. over the next 48 to 72 hours or so. And that upper level energy is going to dive down in here towards the Gulf Coast and then possibly picking up an area of spin coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. If you've been following us on our social feeds, you know over the last couple of days we've been posting that we've been picking up the signs that vorticity spin has returned to the Atlantic, and we're starting to see the first signs of season change coming up in the Atlantic and spring coming for those that are south of latitude 30. We'll get into that here in just a few moments, or show you the idea there in just a few moments, but I'm going to zoom in down here towards the tip of the Yucatan. And you'll notice this lifting and what appears to be some spinach going on right here. This is signs that spring is right around the corner. You know, we're moving into severe weather season, and this is the time of year where you can get the fronts to start stalling out over Florida. Now, be it this last week or so, it may have come just a little couple of weeks early. Typically we see this in March, but this is a yearly occurrence that we watch for as a sign to change of season. I think it was about a week ago or so, we tagged Stu Ostro, the Director of Communications and Senior Meteorologist at the Weather Channel. We are fellow followers on Twitter, on an area of spin that was down in here in Tampico, Mexico. Now, this is something that you'll see every year, where you'll get spinach up along the fronts or dying fronts in here, and then once you start to see this spin return into the Atlantic basin, especially coming through the Caribbean, you know the season is starting to change. One of the other things that we watch for this time of year is the temperature contrast down in here at the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula through Cuba. And when we start to see daily temperatures rise into the upper 80s, low 90s on a regular basis, we know that season change is on. And that is because the first place to heat up is going to be down in the Western Caribbean through the East Pacific. And as the weeks and months move on, that line starts to move into South Florida, Central Florida, North Florida, and then by the time you get into summer, you're in the mid-latitudes up towards the Outer Banks, and sometimes in New England. But this is the first place that things start to heat up, and this is for today. 91, tip of the Yucatan. 88 for Havana. And so when we start to see temperatures start to creep up down in here, we know there's no turning back, and the season is progressing. The other sign of season change is vorticity spin returning to the Atlantic, and want to show you that, switch you over to the high res. This is going back 4 days to February 6th, and I want you to notice the push that's going to be coming off Africa here. Now, this is due to high pressure now moving back into the eastern Atlantic, and this is setting up a spring-like pattern. It's returning easterly trade wind flow to the Atlantic in here, and so I'll advance it one day, and you'll notice that push. Watch that push here coming off Africa. This goes into February 8th and then February 9th. So this is yesterday's. And you'll notice in here, notice how it takes on that, notice how it takes on that circle shape. And this is an easterly push here, and this really is a tropical-like pattern. You've got the tail end of the front dragging in here, and then you've got vorticity spin, albeit weak, pushing all the way from, or the flow, all the way from Africa into the Western Caribbean. Okay, switch you over to this morning's 06Z GFS, and notice the little green patch here just north of the Yucatan. I'll advance the model and you'll notice how it starts to lift up towards Louisiana, right? Okay, so that's this right here, spinning up off the Yucatan right in here. And so this is going to lift up in advance of that upper level energy that's moving to the north of it. And then we should start to see the kickoff of an ice and snow event for this period. Now, if you remember, the last period ended up with 5 hurricane force lows in a row, followed by 2 storm force lows, and one of which ended up being the historic snowstorm Orlena for the mid-Atlantic and New England just last week. So this looks to mark the beginning phase of this next period of some explosiveness in the atmosphere. Advance the model some more for you, and you can see that that ends up moving off towards the east. And then now look back down at the Gulf of Mexico, that dark green patch that's developing in there. That also starts to lift out of the Gulf of Mexico, but then we have upper level energy that's moving into the 4 corners right there, right in there. And then watch this as this dives down into towards Texas. Now this is setting up for the next one incoming that's coming off the Northwest Pacific coast. That's the one that's still out there towards the Gulf of Alaska to the south of the Aleutians. This is in about 72 to 90 hours. So this is at the point where the National Weather Service will be able to start launching weather balloons to get better data to feed into the computer models to see what kind of exact outcome we're going to have with this incoming system. This image is Saturday going into Sunday, going into Valentine's Day. And notice you still have that connection at the tip of the Yucatan. And I just showed you the temperatures in the upper 80s to low 90s. So there's some heat coming out of that. And there's going to be a cold heat temperature clash. I'll advance the model for you some more. Now watch that upper level energy dropping into the 4 corners. And it's going to drop down towards the Gulf of Mexico. And it's going to dig out what's in the Caribbean. Look at Texas. Texas, now mind you, this is one run of one model, and we got about 72 hours until we can start getting some better data. So this is not the gospel, but look at Texas. Texas covered with snow and ice. And look at this thing start to pull up the moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico and over Florida. Now this goes into Tuesday, into Wednesday, and then this is 7 days out, right? And so we don't have a lot of confidence outside of that 7-day window, but I'll run it to 10 days. Look what's coming in behind it. Again, we've got that connection out of the Gulf of Mexico in here. This is a very wet, rainy, springtime-like setup. This is going into 10 days. Right here, that's plus 240. So that's 10 days. So we wouldn't hold that as the gospel either. But what I'm trying to show you is there's a progressive pattern that's getting ready to set up. And weak areas of low pressure known to produce copious amounts of rain when they phase with upper level energy could produce a lot of snow, guys. All right, going to switch you over to the pressure anomaly parameter of the GFS and start talking about the upcoming surf forecasts and the potential thereof. There are some possible surf alerts setting up. I don't want to get accused of hype, but we'll advance the model for you. And what you see in there east of Newfoundland is the area of low pressure or the winter storm that developed over New England. It's since moved out into the North Atlantic as a hurricane force low. And another area of low pressure, this is going into this weekend, and a 952 millibar hurricane force low, another one developing. That would make 2 in a row there. But I want you to notice the pressure drop in the Bay of Campeche, and then look off Africa Look how the pressure starts to drop off the coast of Africa, right in there. So just because we're not in hurricane season does not mean there's not spin in the atmosphere. And this could set up the first easterly trade wind swell, a spring-like swell setting up for portions of the East Coast. You're going to have, like we talked about, easterly trade wind flow from Africa all the way into the Caribbean. Now, take note of the isobars north of the Outer Banks. This is going to increase some onshore flow as an area of low pressure develops and moves off. So there's a quick little shot maybe right in there. But then again, look at that tip of the Yucatan and how the pressure's lower right in there. And then look, area of low pressure lifting up out of the Gulf of Mexico. These are all signs of season change, guys. And then again, look at the mid-Atlantic. This is for Tuesday, February 16th. Another area of low pressure moving in, tightening up the isobars, increasing onshore flow there. Okay, so another little shot and maybe some southerly suck up in there for the south-facing beaches of New York and New Jersey. Through there, and we'll advance the model all the way up into 240, which is 10 days. Not a lot of confidence in there, still trying to figure it out, but this is where we can get into maybe a major swell event coming. I'm still looking into it, but you'll notice the area of low pressure that's leaving Newfoundland and then passing up under Nova Scotia. This can get some northeast ground swell going if the rotation is correct, because right there, now this is at plus 276. Right now there you've got northeast fetch coming off the tip, southern tip of Greenland, down in here past Newfoundland, and then we've got high pressure building in over the central U.S. So this could get some swell going, but again, not a lot to talk about in the SERP forecast at the moment. That's all I got for you for now, guys. Stay tuned to our social feeds for updates, and we'll likely cut another video here in the next day or so. Stay tuned.